I was live, I talked about this whole first drop, and really what I focused on was the space and distance everything had in between it to give the room that this track sits in a bit of depth and kind of points of reference as far as like front to back and like how the track feels and how it fills up the room. This video though, I'm going to be talking about the second drop and really kind of how I pull away from a little bit more of a techno style into like a melodic kind of a house vibe so that I can set it up for this. I guess I would consider it more of like a dance floor vibe at the very end of the track. But in order to get there from where I was, I wanted to build a bridge kind of a thing. And that's what this is talking about. There is a little bit of variation. It's quite a bit of variation between this drop and the first drop in the aspect of details. It does not have any of the clicks and stuff going on over here as much. This over here is the final arrangement, but this section here with all these little details that are giving it that like depth and like feeling like there's noises behind you or kind of buried in this chamber or whatnot, and then these other things that are right up front, this all kind of dissipates into softness, like I said last time. Sorry about that. All dissipates into softness. And once it dissipates into softness, the track loses a few of these like details. A point I didn't make about those noises is that when you have a full-bodied sound that comes after a sound that has say like the low end swept out of it like that, it almost feels like that sound that's full-bodied is like surrounding you compared to this thing that kind of just sits in this high frame that's right in front of your face, you know what I mean? Like this sound is like, but then you hear this like boom, it kind of comes up from the bottom. And then the track dissipates into softness. We hear these chords that kind of feel like they're off into the distance. And the reason it feels like that is because those little hi-hats, those like those start right up front in your face. And then they like kind of like go away. They soften, allowing everything else to come up. So what we have going on there, you got pretty much these. And this has an automation put on that upper frequency. It kind of pulls out all that little high information, which kind of buries it, so to speak, underneath everything. It gives it kind of a ratio of where it was and then where it's going. And that allows everything to kind of like the soft stuff, which were the chords, come forward. The other thing that disappears, really it only shows up for a second and then isn't around, I believe, until the final arrangement, is this rolling bass line. So that's that little like, right? A little digital thing that's going on this. So that goes off, comes back for a second. As far as effects goes, there's really not much happening here. So subtle. get these little stabs for the very first time. Well, also, as far as the drop goes, this pluck is finally kind of like seeing its highlighting moment. These two instruments here. Kick drum is the exact same as it was in the first drop. It consists of this kind of like main tone of the kick, I would say. This is more of the main tone of the kick. It's that deep booming kind of techno space that it, you know. That's also the main reason that my rolling bass does not have a lot of information to it. Well, low-end information to it, I would say. That rolling bass does not take up that lower frequency because this kick drum has a tail on it that is just like all over the place. And if I had a bass that was fighting that thing, it would sound like mud. It would sound terrible. You would hear some of it okay sometimes, and the kick would be fighting other times. It would get all like and all distorted other times. So I gave this kick drum all the space it needs to be what it is, which allowed me to have this bass be a little bit, you know, thinner, as it were. It's not really a lot of low-end information going on. And it does its job just fine, because everything about low information is being handled by So anyway, moving on, back to this. That big boomy kick takes up a lot of space at the low end. You don't have a lot of instruments fighting for their space in this section. This right here, even though this EQ, and I could probably even adjust this. Like I said, my production techniques for this would probably be different today than they were when I was finished with this. This instrument has almost like this high-end information taken out of it, which allows this pluck to fill all the space it needs to. And in another time, like in another, in another opinion, somebody or myself would be like, oh, I really love these chords. I want, to get the most out of it. And they would kind of give the same attention to the same range that these need to sit in. And that just wouldn't let those instruments be what they need to be. I also believe that these are in C, so they're like down in C, E2. That'll make sense when I show you this. This is over here up about an octave. It's about an octave up. It goes into the next range up. And so that separates these instruments enough for them also not to live in kind of the same space. Now this does drop here, but even there, you're still at a tone that is a little bit different for this instrument. Like its space that it takes up is a little bit more high energy. It sits up here in this range rather than like in this mid space that these chords take up. enough to give you something to listen to other than the regular, right? Has a little bit of like delay back and forth. It kind of bounces back and forth for a second, going off into the distance. The other thing that's a bit different in this section that was not there in the first section is this like right, and it's real subtle. When I solo this, you'll know how important it is for this section, but it certainly isn't here. So like, has a lot of stuff going on that's pretty significant to this part of the track, and it isn't here in the first section at all. Not at all. But then you get here. Because this has so much going on as far as those light snares and that crispiness, I found it important to like get rid of these hats in this first section because I just kind of wanted that to be the focus. And then when they come back in, it's just kind of a little light detail that sits on top of everything. Emptier space. Alright. So one more time, we're going to go through that drop one more time, and I'll just go through these instruments. I'll show you what's going on here. There's really not a lot of instruments happening. It is a smooth section. It's kind of light. It's a good response to the first section, but like, it's not that complicated as far as instrumentalization goes, or even channels that have instruments or drums or chords or anything musically going on. There's nothing really special about this section different from the first half. I would even say that the first half has a little bit more details as far as those like clicks that are really important and like kind of small details. This has less of that. But it's a very important section because this will introduce elements that play a huge role in closing the song out, which I love. That kind of like little breakaway from this deepness, and kind of like, I would say this section has almost like a ruggedness to it. It feels a little bit more dirty, like you could, like, I don't know, just kind of grimy. A little bit grimy when it gets to the, you know, like, kind of grimy. There's no griminess in this section whatsoever. All smoothness. So we're going to go through this one last time. We're just going to give it a nice listen. And again, I hope that anything that you see here that you like, you feel free to use as far as information or techniques or anything like that. Like, experiment, ask me questions too. If you see something here that you don't quite understand, or you'd like to know more about how I did EQing or processing, or if you see like a frozen instrument, I'll do my best to explain how I made that and how I got there. But yeah, feel free to like hit me up, ask me questions about how I made this or did that, and I would be more than happy to help you out. So there, let's just go one more time through this section. Coming out of these first half though. did have some camera issues there, so I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna reset that. Sorry, that's just, you know, that's what happens when it's live. When I put up a reel, it won't have that mess in it. Alright. Kicks, all the way across. Subtlety is such a big deal. If you want somebody to pay attention to something, try to hide it a little bit instead of make it so obvious. They might go looking for it. Just smooth. There's not a lot of complexity here at all. And we're gonna repeat. Add a little bit more of these hi-hat, these tops. Subtle though. And you got this effect that kind of like dips down sweep. And then we start getting ready for these little effects and clicks again. And then this is the next section. Like, we'll go ahead and talk about this another time. But for now, yeah, going into this next drop is where I really pull everything together to give this song a little bit of intensity and more of a dance floor vibe. I really like what I did. And as far as the new elements that I put into this next section, I could argue that nowadays, if I produce this song again, there's even elements in here that I wouldn't necessarily put in there because they don't have any place in the earlier parts of the track. But it was a decision I was making when I was, you know, just making things from an absolutely creative space and not following necessarily the rules, you know. I was just like, I want this here, it sounds good, it's my decision. And sometimes that's what you have to do as an artist. Sometimes people are going to be like, that wouldn't go there, or that should not go there. And you know what? Yeah, it does, because you wanted it to. Sometimes they're right though. You have to give people who know what they're talking about a little bit of credit. Sometimes they're just like, yeah, that's the timing of that is and you can just be like, all right. But there are going to be times where they're going to be like, I don't know, it just doesn't quite, it's not like this. Exactly. It's not like that. And that's beautiful. It should be that, what it is for that reason. To be like it is instead of like this other thing. Yeah, that's artistry. For this last section of the song, I will do another video here in a little bit. But yeah, I hope you appreciated this little dive into the second portion of the song. If you like what you heard, and if you're curious about the first section and didn't see it, go check out Hybrid on any of the platforms. Your favorite, Amazon, Apple Music. I mean, it's anywhere right now and everywhere, but YouTube will have it, Spotify will have it. Add it to your playlist, download it if you're a DJ or an artist, and play it out to these shows if you want. Maybe it's a good song for a sunset or a sunrise. It's probably not, 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. banger. I wouldn't go out there and expect to blow the dance floor up with this thing. But, if you do want it, hit me up. Let me know. I would be more than happy to share it with you. And, yeah, subscribe to my channels, follow for more, and I will see you later.